we have been assured by every president in what is the old Big East and the conference commissioner there that we're going to be invited. We have not been invited formally. There's all kinds of speculation as to why we haven't, and it might have to do with the basketball tournament that's in town. I don't know if that has anything to do with it or not. I know that Conference USA had asked us not to do anything before, and if it had been up to us, I don't know that we would have waited, because we have an obligation to our people to make sure that we're communicating and doing all that. But we believe that's probably where it's going. It's not that is the perfect of all worlds, but given the alternatives that we had, it would either be Mountain West or whatever the old Big East is going to be called. And once Boise State and San Diego State went back to the West, they've said we're not expanding at this time. Separate from what some people seem to think, we don't get to invite ourselves into somebody else's conference. So you actually have to kind of make a pitch and go through all that. And we got very active in trying to pursue something once the latest rounds of changes occurred. I don't think we're anywhere close to this being settled. I don't mean about us, I mean about nationally. What was interesting, I tell people all the time, if you just take TCU as an example, TCU was on their way to the Big East and had already made that decision and they never got there. They wound up in the Big 12 before they ever even made the switch to the first conference. And so there's always going to be a little bit of a food chain pecking order here, and what happens at if Big 12 stays where they are, then things stay calm. If Big 10 stays where they are, but any one of those that goes and poaches somewhere else will cause another ripple effect as it goes. But I think you'll see us probably move forward into whatever that conference is, which is mainly a lot of the teams that we were playing before.
So how big would that conference be?
What we believe is going to happen is it'll get to 12 with us. There's 10 currently, and I don't even know. Again, some of you guys may keep up with it better, but there's 10. Navy is supposed to come in 2015, and they're talking about us becoming the 12th with Navy being the 11th. I don't know if it'll be 2015 or if it may move forward because of other teams leaving or making. I mean, there's still some litigation in place from some of the teams that left the ACC in West Virginia. I mean, some of that is still in process of who's paying out and who's not paying out, and all those kind of things. So I just think it's in flux. But I think you'll see us, the conference landscape changing a little bit, and it hopefully will include us. What we have to do, is we just got to be the best Tulsa can be. And I think one of the things that we continue to try to market what we do, I think it will surprise a lot of people in this room that there are only 5 schools in the country that have more conference championships at the Division I level than Tulsa does. We're number 6 in the country, and that's Division I conference championships. So there's a over time we've had a pretty good run. Now we took a dip there late 90s, early, and we're still having to kind of live up to that. But last 6 years we're in the top 20 in the country in numbers of wins. I just feel like we've got to do that part of it, and then the politics of it have to catch up with us. Yes,
Got any players going to the pros?
we actually have our pro day. What's today? Tomorrow. So we'll have a pretty good run. I think Tulsa this year has probably 4, 5, or 6 guys that will wind up in camps. I don't know. We don't have anybody that I project to be a high round draft pick at all. I think we've got a whole bunch of late round or free agent type guys. As for instance, I think you're going to see maybe Dexter McCoy will get a chance to go. I think there's some questions about he's got great size, range, all those kind of things. They question his straight speed. Every guy that we have has some red flag on him. DeAndre Brown, that was probably arguably the best defensive player in the whole conference, is just small for an NFL linebacker. I think he could go to Canada and play 15 years. But in the NFL, they're going to question his size. Willie Carter, our H-back, I think he's got all the measurables, but just like Charles Clay a couple of years ago who's playing for the Dolphins, there's not very many programs, very many NFL teams that go, oh, I want a flexible fullback tight end guy. And so sometimes it's a matter of what kind of offense you want. But, you know, we've gotten those three. I'm trying to think who else I left out. Defensive linemen, I think both of our two interior guys are going to get an opportunity to go to camp, Bufford and Jackson. Trent Doopy is one that, again, from what he does on the field, everybody likes him, but how many NFL teams have 6-foot offensive linemen? He is 6 foot. So he's got that red flag on. And so every guy we have has some kind of measurable that they go, okay. And that's why they're going to tend to be free agent type guys, and then they get into camp, maybe they win a job. And that happens. Yes, sir.
How is GJ Kinney doing? How is he progressing in his?
You might have seen that GJ just got signed with by the Eagles, which it happens to be where Damaris Johnson is, which is kind of interesting. We had a graduate assistant, Press Taylor, who was coaching quarterbacks with me, and Press got picked up by Chip Kelly when he got the job to go to the Eagles as what they call a quality. It was kind of a low-level, entry-level deal, but a low entry-level deal there is like $65,000 a year, and it's a great job for Press. Well, I think his background of having been a part of coaching GJ didn't hurt, because when they were evaluating quarterbacks that could run Kelly's offense, they asked him what he thought, and he said, I think you ought to bring him in. He came in, had a tryout, did really well, and they signed him. Now, he'll have to win, his way into at least the 4th spot in camp, but Press seems to believe that he's got a real good shot.
Can you talk
Yes.
about maybe some of the local kids on the team and how they're doing and where you see them at?
I'm glad you asked that. We have a lot of local flavor. We have not just local, but Oklahoma flavor. Don't let me get around that, but I want to kind of give you a little flavor of why I think that's important. A lot of you guys know about Tulsa, but some of you may not be as ingrained, and so I want to give you a little background that you may or may not know. Most people around here have heard, because it's kind of the mantra, that we're the smallest enrollment in Division I, football playing school. That is true. I'm not sure that people realize how small sometimes. I mean, there's literally barely over 3,000 undergrads. That means Union High School has a bigger enrollment than the undergrad. Okay? I mean, just to put it in perspective. Now, that doesn't matter, but what's interesting is our athletic department is about the same size as most big-sized state schools, because we play the sports and we have full teams and we have full scholarships. And so, interestingly, one of the dynamics that's, I think, unique to the University of Tulsa is the much higher percentage of students are Division I college athletes. And it's about 1 out of 9 walking that campus is a Division I athlete. The other interesting dynamic is 1 out of 10% of our students are National Merit Scholars. And so as we go to recruit, we're having to find people that can fit in this culture of really a high academic. In fact, the average ACT score last year for the incoming freshmen, and this is including the football team that dragged it down a little bit, the average ACT was 29 of the incoming freshman class.
I like to have gone to TU.
Well, I couldn't either. It's made my degree a lot better, I can tell you that over the years. But what I'm saying is you have to have a little perspective on who we are and what we have. Because we're so small, this is the dynamic that people miss sometimes, is the alumni from the University of Tulsa are not the way to network our program. Whereas at a big school, you're graduating thousands of alumni a year. Here, if every living alumni showed up at a football game, we would not fill up a 30,000 seat stadium. There are not 30,000 living alumni. People don't get that about our deal. So recruiting now, going back to kind of get to this answer, recruiting has to be a little more strategic, because I cannot just depend on a guy growing up and saying, well, my whole family was this, and so I want to be that. I mean, that's what you have in this state from Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, the big alumni bases, big state schools everywhere. I use the example, if I walked into a school, put my business card down, and every other school that comes in there to recruit puts their business card down, and all we're trying to win on is reputation, our card never gets picked up. And so we have to realize that. So we came up with a very strategic plan to recruit. We call it a 4C recruit. And I'm not going to bore you, but I'm going to kind of go through this with you. The first one is compliant. That's very minimum standard. This is what NCAA says you got to have. We can't even begin to recruit a guy if he's not compliant. The second C is if we think he's good enough to play, then we check his character. Because I really believe that if I'm going to offer a scholarship that right now the sticker price of that 5-year deal is about $300 grand, and if you screw it up, it goes in the trash can. I don't get to use it for somebody else. I need to really think through who I want to bring in. And so we're doing, I think, a very thorough job. You know, and again, no pun intended to other places, but we're trying not to make what we're looking for from a character be that you don't have a felony. I mean, that's, you know, we're trying to look a little deeper to what kind of kid are you? You know, do you have a bent towards doing the right thing? Not that we're a bunch of Boy Scouts, but we definitely want guys that don't stick out like a sore thumb in a program. If you're a good kid, that you stick out like a sore thumb. We really want it to be the other way. If you're kind of going the other side, maybe you stick out like a sore thumb, because most of our kids are great kids. Well, that's character, so that screens out a bunch of kids. Then the third C is what we call capacity. You have to have the capacity to play at the highest level, all right? And part of this is changing culture, changing perception. We used to, when we first started here, I'd have a bunch of my high school coaching buddies that would say, now coach, why are you not recruiting our guy? I understand why OU's not recruiting, I understand why, but why is Tulsa not recruiting? Well, because if he can't play at OU and OSU, he can't play for me. See, we can't take thirds and win at the highest level. But what we can do is we can work, turn over rocks, do our research. We think we can find guys that can play at that level that maybe they're not recruiting. And then lately, we've been able to even win some of those that they're recruiting. So they've got to have the ability, in my opinion, to play in the Big 12, SEC, or we can't really recruit them. Then they also have to have the capacity, not just athletically, but they have to have the capacity academically to make it at a school where 1 out of 10 is a National Merit Scholar, where the average ACT score for freshmen was 29. They don't have to have that, because one of the great things about being a small school is that we have one-on-one instruction. So one of the things we look for, and I don't know, you guys are a little older, but one of the things you'd be shocked how many guys I sit down with, coach brings him in, lets me visit with him, and the whole time I'm trying to talk to him, he's doing this. Or he's talking to me, and then it buzzes, and he has to answer his text. And some of that's character, but the other thing is, one of the things I talk to our guys about is, if they've got a lower test score, but they've made good grades, and they can look you in the eye and communicate, that guy will be successful at Tulsa. But if he's done this his whole life, and he looks up and, I don't care if he makes good test score, he ain't gonna make it at Tulsa. Because a real professor is gonna be asking him questions, and he's not a graduate assistant, it's a real professor, and if he can't communicate, we don't have a chance getting him through. So when we measure his capacity, we're measuring academics, athletics, and then we talk about culture. The University of Tulsa happens to be right in the middle of the city of Tulsa, right in the middle of Oklahoma. So if a guy comes from California to Tulsa, can he fit in Tulsa? I don't mean just on campus. Can he fit here culturally? Now some can, some can't. That doesn't mean we won't recruit out there. The 4C, and this is getting back to answering that long-winded question, short question that I got long-winded on, is connection. because we know you won't pick up my business card based on reputation, we have to have a connection. And the connection begins locally and goes out. We have about a 250-mile target radius. So that's pretty much Kansas City down to Dallas, starting from the inside, Tulsa out. We got to win Tulsa, then win Oklahoma, then get into that area. And the reason for that is connection. They're going to know us better, and we're going to know them better. Connection also is, do we have a coach or a pastor, a teacher, a counselor, a booster, somebody that knows that kid that's going to help tell them, you know what, son, do your research about the University of Tulsa. If we can get them to do their research and come on campus, we have a great shot at getting them. The guys that we don't get are the ones that never pick up the card. Because when they do their research, they find out they're a top 100 academic school. That's the equivalent of being in the top 5 in football. Because it's 5,000 doctoral degree granting institutions, and we were 75th last year. Okay? So if you have that, and you're a parent, and you're going, I know all the degrees count, they all count, but maybe this education might be, I mean, we believe it's better. I mean, we don't have online classes. I wish we did for eligibility purposes, but we don't have them. So we're saying, okay, and then we don't hide it. We're not beating kids. We're not having revival services. We're not doing anything. But we said, look, as a coaching staff, we are going to operate from a Christian worldview. That just means we believe there's right and wrong, and that there's ways to do things and to do things right. And we hold you accountable for that. And you know what? A lot of parents like that. And especially if we actually live it out. And so we tell them these are the things we're going to do. And because we're a private school, we get a little more leeway. Now, we still don't have we can't just go crazy. We're not trying to. I think that's where my public school background has really helped me. Because we had to operate in a public school setting and still try to create an atmosphere like this. So when kids find out, we have figured out that we know more about local kids than any other school around. Because we can get them on campus, we get them to our camps. I know more high school coaches. And when you develop a relationship, and I asked Steve Dunlap, Steve, can that guy play for me? And Steve, because we're friends, and I'm using this as an example, he'll say, yeah, but you ought to, I don't know. Well, if somebody comes in, I just tell you, when I was at Union High School, my job was to promote my players. So a recruiter came in that I didn't know, my job is to help him get a scholarship. So I'm telling him, you need to take this tight end, he can really play. A guy comes in that I have a relationship with, that he says, now Bill, does this guy, can he make us better? Can we do? I'm like, boy, I don't know, Greg. I think you need to go to the next guy. I don't think he can play for you. Now, moms and dads would not like that, but I'm just telling you, I think if we have a friendship, and that's what we have, is we've got a relationship. So when Bill Patterson at Owasso says, Coach, look at Jalen Lowe again. I look at him again. And when you look at him again and you go back and do your research, you're going, how did we miss that kid? But guess what? There's 119 others that missed him. And fortunately, we had enough, so we wind up getting more local kids. Ironically, in 2007, when we were the national #1 offense, when Gus Malzahn and Todd, and I was just an assistant, but I'm saying when we were doing that, the offensive team that finished first in the nation, the left tackle was from Shawnee, the left guard was from Comanche, the center was from Comanche, the left guard was from Coweta, the right guard was from Sapulpa, the right tackle was from, I can't remember, is Oklahoma, the tight end was from Enid, the quarterback was from Owasso, one of the receivers was from Jinx, and there was 2 or 3 other guys that made us really good. Ironically, again, this year we have arguably the best defense we've ever had at Tulsa in recent memory, at least. The starting left defensive end was from Jinx. The starting tackle was from Edmond Santa Fe. The starting nose guard was from Del City. The other defensive end was from Edmond Santa Fe. Starting linebacker from McLean. starting safety from Glenpool, other safety from Louisiana, starting corner from Midwest City, starting corner from LA. 8 of the 11 were Oklahoma kids. And all of a sudden we're good again. I have a theory, and I may be wrong, but I believe when that game's over and you go get your hair cut at the barbershop, or you finish the bowl game and you go back to eat at wherever you go eat, that somebody goes, what the hell were you doing? I think there's a little more pressure when you play close to home. When our left corner went home to LA, I guarantee you nobody outside of his family asked him what went on at the Liberty Bowl. Now that's my opinion, and that's why I think in about a 15-minute version why we recruit more local kids. So if you want to know anybody in particular, I'd love to hear it. Thomas Robertson is having the best spring he's had in 3 years. He's fast again. He had a foot surgery, and Thomas has had a great spring so far. Brian Burnham, we're waiting to hear from. He needs a 6th year, and I hope we'll hear this week from NCAA.
Kwame Sexton.
Kwame, unfortunately, left us last year. It was his choice. We tried to have him. We still tried. He left once, came back, dealing with some personal issues, but I'd love to have him.
The boy from Bishop Kelly that put on weight.
Davis Walton,
Yeah.
he's playing left. He's fighting for the left tackle spot. He redshirted last year. He's still got 2 years to play. Yes. James had some injuries, took a medical, what do we call it, a medical hardship, and wasn't going to play, and has actually changed schools. He's at Oklahoma now, wanting to kind of pursue a different major and do some different things. So what people believe are the twins, which are actually triplets, are now all split up. You probably know that.
What about attendance for this coming year? Y'all did a great job. Congratulations on 2012, your success.
Yes.
I didn't go to TU, I'm not one of your alums.
Yes.
But my wife and I enjoy college athletics,
Right.
so we'll try to go to as many of your home games as we can. But when I'm in the stadium and I look around, it's lots of empty seats.
Lot of
I don't
empty seats.
understand, I don't know that there's anything you can do other than continue to win, but
Right.
it puzzles me that the city of Tulsa doesn't support your program.
It does. I think we've done a poor job, and I'm talking about we. I'm not pointing a finger at anybody else. We're not good at marketing. We've not done a good job with that. One of the things I've had to accept, and again, this is not very politically correct. I'm just telling you, I believe at Tulsa we have about 12,000 true blue fans that are going to be there, rain, shine, whoever you play. I mean, a lot of schools have a big contingent of those are the kind of fans that we have, those guys. Then I think we have a lot of others that are not elite, don't have great allegiance to us, but say, hey, we like Tulsa, and so we go when we can. And unfortunately, it's a very convenient place to find a reason not to go. And I give you some of them because I hear them all the time. Parking sucks. Well, go to a Division I game someplace and tell me that you can park. I have not ever gotten to pull up and just walk in since I got out of high school. But for some reason at Tulsa, we get offended if we have to park, like they do at any other big school. You played on Friday night. Well, you played on Saturday morning. Well, you played on Saturday evening. Well, you played when OU plays. You played when OSU plays. You play on Wednesday. You played on, I mean, you can find a reason not to go. When we go play on Saturday afternoon, then the guys don't go because their little kids are playing football. And my deal is, I believe, and I may be really wrong, I think we're marketing to the wrong people. I think we need to market ourselves to folks that have never gone to Division I football games. Don't compare it because you're an OU or OSU fan or somebody else. Let's go get people that have not been, because this is about, 800,000 in the metro area? Let's go find some people that have never been to college football games, because I know we're putting on a good product. I know the atmosphere is a good atmosphere. And I think if we get them there, I think we'll keep them there. So So that's one of the things we're kind of working towards. I know we got to do a better job with food, we got to do a better job with parking, we got to do a better job with all those things, but I just think we understand that there's a certain group that we're not going to always please. Yes, sir.
You know, marketing, you're recruiting from local schools.
Yes, sir.
And if you could somehow cultivate those schools and have them follow their players
Right.
and bring in union parents that have seen this kid play before, watch him, you know, on and on and on, that you've got.
Well, that's why we're doing it. That's one of the reasons I think that, I won't say that's why we're doing it. That's one of the byproducts we hope to get. I just hope we get it before it's some other coach. You know, because, you know, these kids will be here one way or the other, but hopefully that, I'll get to enjoy it.
You know, you take like Major League Baseball teams and a lot of professional teams or like OSU. Those fans don't necessarily, like the Cincinnati Reds fans don't necessarily come from downtown Cincinnati.
Right.
They come from all over Kentucky.
Right.
And we, in our market, we say Tulsa team.
Right.
We don't go out just a broken arrow.
Sure.
So to speak. And you're talking about the reach and 800,000 people. Why aren't we marketing to the 800,000?
I just think those are things we've got to do. I'm excited because we're in the process of hiring a new athletic director that one of his, I mean, it's been very well stated from our president, from our leadership, that one of the things they want them to do is to help us get the excitement into that stadium. My job is to have an exciting product and win games. And 2012 is out the window. I mean, we gotta do that consistently. And so, you know, we're gonna continue to battle and do that part of it, and hopefully we'll get some help. And, you know, I just encourage you all to help us. Yes, sir.
Coach, you have any update on the Tulane player, the other author that was in?
Tulane player that was injured during our game. One of the things we got right after the first of the year, and my dates may be a little bit, but we kind of lost track. They'd gone into really some very private deal during his rehab at what turned out to be down in Atlanta. There was a nice video that one of the news stations did down in New Orleans from him after the first year. He is back home. He's actually rehabilitating. It's still an awful situation, but he has regained a little bit of shoulder and occasional finger, which we weren't sure he'd ever get anything back because of where the fracture had occurred. And he is going to school to finish his degree. It's a big deal to him. And he's a biology something major, and so he had when they interviewed him, it was just incredibly emotional, but I was so encouraged because I saw really a glimmer of hope, and this guy was moving in the right direction, and boy, everything we'd heard prior to that was pretty tragic. Yes?
Shane, the offensive lineman that went,
Yes.
he went to the NFL, right?
Well, Shane just graduated. He'll be at the pro day.
Oh, he'll be at the pro
Yeah,
day.
he'll be at pro day on tomorrow. He's the one that actually proposed to his girlfriend on senior day, and then got hurt the next week down at SMU, broke his leg, so he didn't get to play in the bowl game for us.
Yeah.
Yes,
Several of your quarterbacks over the last few years have been transfers from big programs. Do you have any in the pipeline that you're looking at? I know there's a kid at, what was it, Notre Dame or someplace that's going to transfer.
we actually got some information, and people asked if we had an interest. It's been interesting when you look at transfers. Cody was a great transfer for us. He knew coming in the timing would fit him, that you have to typically sit out a year after the transfer, and so one of the things they look for is, and I've been a dad helping, kind of go through this process. When you transfer, you're not looking to transfer someplace where you're playing behind a veteran guy that's been starting for a couple of years. So you kind of look at the roster and those transfers, go, okay, well, if I transfer and sit out, then the guy that's a returning starter may graduate. At least I'll get to compete for the job. So Cody Green hit that timing right. G.J. Kinney did the same thing. G.J. had gone to Texas and then transferred the year that David Johnson was going to be coming in as the senior. not knowing he would win the job, but still the timing was right, and GJ's able to play 3. My evaluation of our talent right now is I think we've really got good talent in our system already. I've got a really special young one that I think is really special. And so anytime you bring a transfer in and stick them in front of somebody that's already in your system, you're going to frustrate the system. A guy can live with the guy in front of me being older. Where you upset the apple cart is if the freshman jumps those guys, then those guys get frustrated and look to transfer. And so we're not really in the market for a transfer quarterback because I'm very confident with what I have in the system.
Will Jalen get a chance?
Jalen, and this has been very public, so I'll tell you exactly our conversation. I said Jalen wants, in fact, confidence is not an issue for him. I love that about him. I said to him, Jalen, here's the deal. I'll give you a chance to play quarterback. What I want to know is if you're the third-team quarterback, do you want to be on the sideline as the third-team quarterback, or do you want to get on the field and play somewhere? He said, well, Coach, first of all, I will never be the third-team quarterback. I said, I understand that. What you also need to understand is the other 2 guys are just like you. They think they're the guy too. And somebody is going to be the third-team quarterback. And so anyway, he laughed. And so what I wanted him to understand was that, yes, I'll give you a chance to play quarterback. He's convinced that'll happen. But what I also said was, don't expect that to happen this fall. Because I have a returning 11-win conference championship, Liberty Bowl championship, that nobody thinks is very good, by the way, but I think it's kind of amazing. But I'm just saying, you have to have something going on. So anyway, he's just not pretty at everything. But anyway, I've got that guy back. I said, Jalen, I've got a backup and a backup and a backup behind him. The odds of you coming in and in 2 weeks showing me that I should put you into this lineup is not going to happen. I'm just being honest with you. So what you need to do is figure out what you want to do in the fall, because next spring, after Cody graduates, now we're back to open season. Now you want to compete, and I'll put you right back there and do that. So I don't suspect he'll do much at quarterback in the fall unless he shows me something crazy in 2 weeks. But I do think maybe this time next year, Jalen would be in the competition with the other guys for the quarterback.
On Cody, interesting, coming down from Nebraska, you got 200 athletes on the team. But he made an interesting comment that I think you can use later on, and that is that one of the things he likes about Tulsa is that when he goes to class, it's a class of about 25 or 30 people. When he goes to class at Nebraska, it was like 250 in an auditorium.
That's right.
And the one-on-one, and with the coaching staff, he's made several comments about, he loves the one-on-one contact. And so
One of
I
the
think
Thank you, Don.
keep that in mind.
Plus, the fishing's not bad here either.
That's right. He loves to fish.
That's another thing.
But, that is one of the things we give as a choice to our recruits, is we say, look, you may be a guy, and I kind of am built this way myself, where I want to be anonymous. I don't really want to be out in front. If you like to be anonymous, you want to be in a big class, sit in the back, pull the hood up over your head or at. But if you really value being known by your name and your face and all that interaction, there's a choice to make. And I didn't say this before, but this is kind of where our program has gotten to. Going into this year, we had 13 players out of the previous 2 classes that had turned down Big 12, SEC, Pac-10 schools to come to Tulsa. This year we got 9 more. 9 more that had opportunities to go. I'm talking about Stanfords, Oklahomas, Missouris, just go down the list, and they chose to come to Tulsa. So we're slowly but surely becoming a school of choice, as opposed to, well, I didn't get any other offers, so I'll go to Tulsa. And so that's what we're really proud of. How are we doing on time?
We're good.
Okay, keep asking. I'll come to you next.
See you this season.
Touch on your special teams.
Special teams. Ironically, because if you watched us, you might find this interesting, but special teams were pretty good last year. Specialists struggled a little bit. We had a freshman kicker, a freshman snapper, and a sophomore punter. And the freshman kicker has tremendous ability. I think he's going to be really good, but he went through a roller coaster of a year. Ironically, most years we wind up with about 4 or 5 walk-on kickers and punters. This year, with a freshman coming in, we had none. We had no walk-on kicker to even make a run at competition. And so our only other competition was the punter. And so anyway, that's kind of what we start with. But he's going to be good. We get some walk-ons into challenging. The punter, we had some blocks, and even though, again, this is a you know, you can disagree with me. Anybody can watch it. It is not that he's 6'8". That's not the issue. We missed 2 key blocks that got 2 of those blocked. He had 1 block during the year that he was too slow, because we time everything. And he was too slow early in the year. We changed everything. And then after that, we had 2 critical screw-ups that affected him getting a punt block, and then all of a sudden your confidence gets, you know, you kind of get shaky. So I think we're going to be in good shape, but we have recruited competition. Everybody gets better with competition. And so we didn't do Daniel a good service this year by not having somebody to be able to really push him and make him better. But talent-wise, really good.
Well, you know, Cole, when early on, he was kicking high hang times and pretty good distance. Later in the year, he was kicking short hang times, and what happened?
2 things. One, the pressure starts. You start getting them blocked, and all of a sudden we're just like, get it off, you know. So I mean, that's not real good. You know, get out there and tee it up and have somebody go, get it off. See how smooth you keep it. That tends to happen. So, and then I think you know, you get later in the year, the other big factor is wind becomes a huge factor too. And he struggled some with trying to kick that thing into the wind, trying to do too much. But he's going to be fine.
I heard you put in for Alex another year. Is
We
there a
have.
chance?
I think there's a legitimate chance. He doesn't fit into a perfect category. Alex had I think played 5 plays his freshman year. And then not ironically, the issue was his mom got sick and put in the hospital down in Louisiana, so he went home for a while. Then when he came back, he had to have his wisdom teeth cut out. So then he missed a few more weeks, and then by that time he was behind and didn't play any. The problem is, the rule by just straight definition is it was supposed to be 1 event that kept him from playing after that initial 5 plays. And that's why there's not, like the illness by his mom didn't keep him from playing the rest of the year, or his wisdom teeth didn't keep him from playing the rest of the year, or this and that. So we've had to ask for some exceptions, and because of that, they keep asking us for more information, and so it's been a little slow. He will take part in Pro Day because we didn't want to cheat him out of Pro Day possibilities, so he'll do that, and then if we get him cleared, he can still, it's all legal, he can still come back and practice with us. So we're still kind of dancing the dance right now.
Is Billy LaFortune still on the team?
Billy's having a really a measure of a guy, and don't take this on any kind of negativity, but this is a guy that's overachieving for his body.
Right.
He's an undersized offensive lineman that's just got a nastiness to him. And so he's playing center, and he's rotating with the number 1s right now. I mean, there's about 3 guys fighting for that job. Trent Dupe graduated last year, and you know, Billy, I think has far achieved what I expected from him at this point in his career. He is legitimately competing for playing time.
Yeah, he played well at all in all. That's my daughter.
But it's not his size, though. I mean, you look. I mean, he's a good size high school player.
Right.
But for us, I mean, he's like 5'10", 5'11", you know, and I don't know, he's probably 260 now, which that sounds big to us, but that's not big in the offensive line. And you're blocking, 6'4", 320 pounders. So that's not a good place.